The sky above Earth turned dark as the giant alien ship appeared. People ran in fear as the sound of engines filled the air. The ship was huge, black like night, and shaped like a blade. It cut through the clouds and hovered silently over the city. Inside the ship, the alien princess sat on her golden throne. Her name was Princess Xelyara, daughter of the Supreme Empress of planet Valgora. She wore a dress made of glowing crystals and a crown that floated above her head. She looked at the screen in front of her, showing humans screaming and hiding. She smiled with pride. "These creatures are weak," she said. "They don't deserve to live free." Around her stood her royal guards, tall and silver-skinned. Warriors with glowing eyes, they bowed to her command. "Bring me one of their fighters," she ordered. "I want to see if they can even stand up straight." Moments later, the guards dragged a human prisoner into the hall. He was not tall, not shining, not powerful. He looked dusty and tired, with a small cut on his cheek and hands tied with energy ropes. The princess walked up to him slowly, her crystal heels clicking on the floor. She looked into his eyes and laughed. "You?" she said with a smirk. "You are the best your planet has to offer?" The human stayed quiet. She walked around him and said, "You're not even worth carrying my purse." Her words echoed in the hall. The alien guards laughed, but the human still said nothing. He only looked around, studying the ship, the guards, the buttons, the exits. His eyes moved like he was memorizing everything. The princess got bored quickly. "Throw him in the lower cell," she said. "He is of no use." But just as the guards grabbed him, a loud alarm rang through the ship. Red lights flashed, and a robotic voice said, "Warning, unknown ship boarding, unknown ship boarding." The princess looked around in shock. "What is this?" she asked. One of the guards checked the screen. "Your Highness, we are under attack," he said. "A small group of rebel fighters has entered the hangar." The princess's face turned serious. "Defend the control room," she ordered, but it was too late. Explosions rocked the ship, and the floor shook. Sparks flew from the ceiling as the lights flickered. In the chaos, the guards lost focus for a second. That was all the human needed. He moved fast, kicked one of the guards, grabbed his weapon, and shot the energy ropes off his hands. The princess gasped, "You dare?" But he didn't wait. He pulled her behind a pillar as another blast shook the wall near them. "Stay down if you want to live," he said. The princess's eyes went wide. "You're protecting me?" she asked, shocked. He didn't answer. He grabbed a fallen guard's small control tablet and started typing something quickly. "What are you doing?" she shouted. "Shutting down the internal shields and locking rebel entry doors," he said. Her eyes widened. "How do you know?" "Our systems?" He looked at her and gave a short reply. "I read fast." Suddenly, the alarms changed. "Rebels contained," the voice said. "Internal systems restored." The guards slowly stood up, shocked to see the human holding the control tablet. One of them whispered, "He saved the ship." The princess walked up to him again. Slower this time. She looked into his eyes, not with pride, but with confusion. "Who are you?" she asked. He gave a tired smile. "Just a man who's not worth carrying your purse," he replied. For a moment, there was silence. Then the princess turned to her guards. "Take him to the guest chamber," she said. Everyone looked surprised. "But, Your Highness," one guard started to speak. "Now," she said sharply. Then she turned back to the human. "This changes nothing," she said coldly. "You are still a human, and I am still your ruler." He shrugged. "Maybe," he said. "Or maybe the galaxy just got a little more interesting." As the guards led him away, the princess stood still. Her mind was spinning with thoughts she had never had before. This human was supposed to be weak, useless, nothing, but he had saved her life and her ship, and he had done it calmly, cleverly, without fear. The halls of the ship echoed with silence, and for the first time in her royal life, the alien princess wasn't sure what would happen next. But she knew one thing: this human was not ordinary, and this story was far from over. ***. The silence inside the alien ship felt heavier than before. Not because of the damage or the lights flickering, but because the alien princess, for the first time, didn't speak. She watched the human from her royal chamber's screen. He sat calmly on the edge of the bed in the guest room. No chains, no cuffs. Just one small alien drone hovering near him, watching. Why is he so calm? She whispered to herself. No one answered, because no one knew outside. The ship floated in space, slowly moving through a quiet zone between galaxies. The rebel attack had been stopped, but something felt wrong. Too easy, too fast. Princess Xelyara stood in her chamber, eyes fixed on the stars. Then the ship shook again. Not like before, but sharper. Alarms returned. Red lights flashing. Not again, she growled. This time it wasn't rebels, it was something worse. An energy wave coming from a black planet nearby. It was a trap. Systems began to fail one by one. Lights died, oxygen levels dropped. The ship lost power, and the emergency. I said one cold sentence. Crash sequence initiated. The princess grabbed the control panel, trying to override it. It didn't work. Down the hallway, the human stood up. He looked around, calmly again. Like he had seen worse. The doors of his chamber opened automatically. The drone that was watching him powered off and fell to the ground. He stepped out. No one stopped him. The guards were too busy saving themselves. Where's the princess? He asked no one, but he already knew. He ran through the twisting halls of the ship like he had a map. In his head, gas leaked from the walls. Lights sparked above. One door almost closed on him, but he rolled under it just in time. He reached the royal control deck. The princess stood there, still fighting with the system. No time to explain, he said, grabbing her arm. She tried to pull away, but the ship shook again. Throwing her to the floor, he lifted her without asking. Get your hands off me, she shouted. I'm saving them, he snapped. And you. Unless you want to crash into that black rock. The princess saw something in his eyes again. Focus, no fear, no panic. He dragged her to the escape pod bay. Guards followed behind, but the blast door closed before they could enter. Just the two of them now, one human, one princess, one escape pod. The ship around them screamed as metal broke apart. He sat her down, hit the launch button, and within seconds, boom, the pod flew into space, just as the main ship exploded. Behind them, fire and pieces of alien steel lit up the stars, but the pod was safe, moving fast inside. Silence again. The princess looked at the human, breathing heavily. He sat across from her, hands folded, as if he had just taken a walk in the park. Why did you save me? She asked finally. He looked at her with tired eyes. You may be arrogant, he said, but you're not evil. She didn't answer. Also, he added, if you die, your empire dies with you. The princess leaned back, eyes staring at the tiny window. Through it, they saw the dark planet getting closer. Their pod was not going to stop in time. Where are we landing? She asked. He checked the emergency screen. Somewhere no one wants to be, he replied. Crash. The pod hit the rocky surface, bounced, and finally skidded to a stop. The doors opened, and cold air rushed in. The planet was dead, gray, broken. A graveyard of old ships and fallen machines. Where are we? She whispered. He stepped out and looked around. Welcome to the war planet, he said. Hope you packed your heels. The first thing the princess felt was silence. A heavy, deep silence that made her ears ring. No voices, no guards, no control panels beeping. Just the dry wind of a broken planet. Her eyes opened slowly. She was lying on the cold ground, dust. In her hair, the once perfect crystal crown was cracked and half buried in sand. She sat up with a groan, her royal suit torn at the side. Then she saw him, the human, already awake, standing on a rock, scanning the horizon. He had made a long stick from metal parts of the escape pod. It wasn't a weapon, but it looked like he was ready to use it. The princess stood up, brushing herself off. This is not how I imagined my day, she muttered. The human didn't look at her. We need to move, he said. Move where? She snapped. This planet is dead. Exactly, he replied. And if we stay here, so are we. The princess looked around, endless land covered in broken machines. Twisted steel, rusted weapons, and old alien bones. It was a graveyard. One that told stories without words. War planet, the human said softly. Built for battles no one remembers, abandoned by everyone. The princess frowned. I've heard of it, she said. A testing ground for weapons and soldiers. He nodded. Yeah, he replied. A planet made for destruction, now home to nothing. Or maybe something. They walked, slowly, carefully. The air was thin, the wind sharp. Even the sky looked bruised, not blue, not black, but a sick shade of purple. As they moved through metal ruins, the princess stumbled on a loose wire. The human caught her arm before she fell. Careful, he said, letting go immediately. She didn't thank him, but she didn't pull away either. For hours they climbed broken ship parts, crawled through tunnels, and avoided deep holes. Finally, they found a small ruined shelter, maybe once a soldier's outpost. It had no roof, but it had walls and some broken equipment. The human checked the corner and smiled. A power cell, he said, half dead, but still breathing. He connected it to a piece of alien tech and lit up a blue fire. Warmth, finally. The princess sat near the fire, tired and angry. I'm not built for this, she whispered. Neither am I, the human replied. But we adapt. She stared at him. You're not what I expected, she said. And what did you expect? He asked without looking at her. A fool, she answered. Someone weak, loud, begging for help. He gave a small smile. Well, sorry to disappoint. They sat in silence for a moment, just the fire crackling between them. Then the human stood up and walked toward the doorless entrance. We're not alone, he said calmly. The princess jumped up. What do you mean? He pointed. Far in the distance, 3 red lights blinked, then disappeared. Then 2 more, closer this time. They're not friendly, he said. Motion bots, old war machines, still active. Can we fight them? She asked. He looked at her. No, he said. But we can outsmart them. She crossed her arms. How? He looked at the broken tech around them. By waking up ghosts, he replied. She frowned, confused. He pointed to a control pad half buried in the ground. This planet was built for war, remember? He said. That means there are traps here, lots of them. He worked quickly, fixing wires, tapping buttons, sparks flying around his hands. The princess watched, quietly this time. No insults, no commands, just silence and something new. Respect, done, he said. Now we wait, outside. Metal feet stomped on the dry ground, red eyes glowing. The bots were coming. And they weren't walking. They were hunting. The princess felt her heart beat faster. Will this work? She asked. Guess we'll find out, he said, and smiled. A human smile. Calm, brave, and maddeningly confident. Then the ground shook. A loud boom, followed by another. One of the warbots triggered a hidden mine, a trap set long ago. The rest followed into a field of forgotten death. Explosions filled the night sky, lighting the princess's face in orange fire. The bots were gone. Silence returned. She turned to him. Did you know it would work? He shrugged. Not really, she laughed, her first real laugh. Short, soft, almost unsure. But real. Then her face turned serious again. We need to leave this planet, she said. He nodded. We will, he replied. But not before. I figure out why your rebels led us here. The princess looked at him sharply. What are you saying? I'm saying, the human said, looking up at the sky. This crash wasn't an accident. Asterisk, it was dark, but not because of night. The sky above the war planet never changed, stuck in endless shadow, and still, a strange silence spread. After the explosions ended, the princess stood quietly beside the fire. But her mind wasn't calm. She was thinking about the human's last words. This crash wasn't an accident. That sentence echoed louder than any bomb. She turned to him. What do you mean by that? She asked. The human was sitting with a broken control tablet in his hands. Old wires, strange alien chips, and parts from the war machines were scattered around him. He didn't look up. "I mean, someone planned this," he said, "and it wasn't me." He tapped the tablet screen. A blue light flashed, and a small hologram appeared, a spinning Valgaron royal symbol. The princess leaned forward. "How do you have access to that?" she asked. He looked at her calmly. "Because your ship's security was 10 years outdated." She blinked, surprised, but said nothing. The hologram expanded, showing a flight path from Earth to Valgora, with a sharp red line curving toward the war planet. "Someone inside your ship changed the route," he explained, "just before the rebel attack." The princess stepped back. "That's not possible," she whispered, "unless someone on your team wanted you dead." He added she didn't answer, because deep down, she had feared the same. Her empire looked perfect from the outside, strong, powerful, full of riches and rule. But inside, cracks had started to form. Her uncle, Lord Vexer, had always spoken of peace but moved soldiers like chess pieces behind closed doors. Her council smiled in public, but argued behind her back. She had heard the whispers that she was too young, too emotional, too proud. Now those whispers had turned into real danger. The human finally stood up, holding a piece of war tech, an old memory cube. "I found this in one of the broken bots," he said. He placed it on the ground and activated it. A projection appeared, showing grainy video, a Valgaron general standing in front of a rebel flag. The princess gasped. "That's General Corzin," she said. "He commands my border fleets." The human nodded. "Not anymore," he said. "He's been feeding information to the rebels for months." She stared at the image. As it looped, Corzin handing over secret maps, rebel leaders shaking hands. This wasn't just betrayal. It was treason at the heart of her empire. "I should have seen this," she whispered. The human said nothing. He only watched her, his expression unreadable. Then she looked at him, really looked at him. A human, captured like a prisoner, now solving puzzles her own people couldn't. He had no title, no army, no power. And yet, somehow he had saved her twice and exposed the cracks in her kingdom. "Why are you helping me?" she asked softly. He looked into her eyes. "Because someone has to," he said, "and right now. It's not your people." She turned away quickly, hiding the confusion in her face. "Then help me get back," she said, voice firm again. "I will," he said. "But we do it my way now." She raised an eyebrow. "Your way?" He nodded. "You want to win?" he asked. "Then stop acting like a ruler and start thinking like a rebel." For the first time in her life, Princess Xelyara listened without arguing, because something inside her, the part trained to sense danger, told her this human was right. Suddenly, a signal beeped from the memory cube. A new image flickered on coordinates. Deep inside the war planet, a hidden chamber, marked with an ancient rebel code. The human smiled. "Looks like our next move just appeared," he said. The princess stared at the code. A chill ran down her spine. This planet wasn't just a graveyard. It was holding secrets her empire was never meant to find, and they were walking straight into them. There is a moment in war when silence is more dangerous than noise. That moment had arrived. Princess Xelyara stood at the edge of a metal cliff, staring down into the remains of a broken city buried under the war planet's dust. Old buildings leaned sideways, their walls cracked like ancient bones. Lights blinked beneath the rubble, soft red, blinking lights, not dead, not forgotten, just waiting. Behind her, the human tightened the strap on his shoulder pack. Inside were scraps of alien tech, 2 energy knives, and a cube that showed the way forward. "This place wasn't destroyed," he said quietly. "It was hidden." Xelyara nodded. "It was one of our oldest war bases," she replied. "Shut down decades ago." He looked at her. "Then why is it still breathing?" No answer, only wind, dry and sharp, blowing sand into the air like smoke. They climbed down slowly, every step echoing off broken metal. Below them, the ground was warmer than it should have been. Something deep below was alive as they walked. Deeper into the ruins, Xelyara kept thinking about her council, about General Corzin, about her uncle Lord Vexer. The betrayal was no longer a secret. It was a storm, and it was getting closer. They reached a giant door, half buried in stone. Symbols glowed on the surface. Valgaran Rebel Code. The human stepped forward. Tapping buttons on the memory cube, the door hissed open, slow and heavy. Inside was a massive hall filled with silence and shadows. Old machines stood like statues. Rusted but still humming softly, screens lit up the walls as they entered, showing pieces of old data, blueprints, weapons, secret maps, and one blinking message. "Welcome back." "Commander," Xelyara froze. "I've never been here before," she sighed, confused. The human stepped closer to the screen. "This was meant for someone else," he said. "Someone who knew this place would be found." Suddenly, the lights turned red. Alarms didn't scream. They whispered, quietly and cold, doors behind them locked with a loud thud. "Trap," the human said calmly. Pulling out the energy knives, Xelyara's eyes scanned the room. "Where are they?" The answer came quickly, from above. Metal doors in the ceiling opened, and figures dropped down silently. Rebel soldiers in black armor, faces hidden, weapons ready. One of them stepped forward, pulling off his helmet. It was General Corzin. "I was hoping you'd make it this far," he said with a cruel smile. Xelyara's hands turned to fists. "You betrayed your crown," she growled. Corzin laughed. "I saved the Empire from weakness," he said, looking at the human. "From filth." The human didn't flinch. He simply stepped in front of Xelyara, knives raised. Corzin pointed his weapon at him. "You were just a prisoner," he said. "Now look at you, pretending to be a hero." The human smiled. "I'm not pretending," he said then. Flash. Strike, chaos. The human moved first, throwing one of his knives straight into a rebel's weapon. It exploded in sparks. Xelyara raised a blast shield from a fallen bot and used it to block fire. It wasn't a fair fight. It wasn't clean. It was survival as rebels closed in. Human dragged Xelyara behind a pillar. "We need to split them," he said. She nodded. "I'll take the left." They moved like shadow and fire, one with strategy, the other with fury. Corzin fired again and again, shouting, "You were born to bow, not lead." The human ducked, jumped, rolled, and finally reached the side panel. He slammed his hand on the controls. Old turrets dropped from the ceiling, glowing blue. Friend or foe systems activated, and the rebels were not on the friend list. The turrets fired automatically, forcing the rebels into retreat. Some fell, others ran, and Corzin screamed in rage. "You think you've won?" he shouted. "This changes nothing." The human walked toward him slowly. "No," he said. "It changes everything." He threw the last energy knife at the power core behind Corzin. It exploded, not deadly, but enough to throw him back, unconscious. Xelyara walked to the center of the hall, breathing heavily. She looked around, the broken base, the rebel bodies, the human who had once been her prisoner. And then she did something no one expected. She stepped forward, lifted her chin, and said, "I am no longer a puppet ruler." Then she turned to the human. "And you are no longer just a human." He looked at her. "And what am I now?" he asked. She gave a rare, genuine smile. "A threat. Legends don't begin with crowns. They begin with dust in your mouth, blood on your hands, and the enemy calling your name with fear." The human walked through the ruins of the rebel base, his shirt torn, one arm bruised, and his eyes focused like a laser. He wasn't royalty, not a general, not even a soldier anymore. But every Valgaran soldier in the secret chamber stood when he entered, not because of his rank, but because he had survived, because he had won, and because deep down, they now believed something strange, something powerful, that maybe, just maybe, this human was the weapon the Empire needed. Princess Xelyara watched silently as the guards saluted him. She didn't stop them. In fact, she nodded once, small but clear. It was her way of saying, "He's earned it." Later, in a hidden chamber beneath the base, The princess activated the Empire's emergency council line. Holograms of her advisors blinked into view, faces full of shock, not because she was alive, but because of the man standing beside her. "That's the Earth prisoner," one of them whispered. Xelyara stepped forward. "Wrong," she said. "That's my new royal strategist." Gasps filled the room. Some council members looked furious, others afraid. "He's not one of us." Lord Vexor said coldly, his image flickering in blue light. "He's exactly what we need," Xelyara replied. "He saved my life, exposed your traitor General Corzin, and cracked a rebel code your best minds couldn't read." The human didn't speak, he simply watched, silent but present, a storm waiting behind calm eyes. Lord Vexor leaned forward. "Do you even know who he really is?" he asked with a smirk. The human looked at him for the first time. "Do you?" he asked back. Silence. The call ended, but tension remained thick in the air. Xelyara turned to him. "They won't follow you," she said. "Not unless you prove yourself." He nodded. "Then let's give them something they can't ignore." 1 week later, across the galaxy, rumors began to spread. A human had risen in the Valgoran Empire. Not as a slave, not as a tool, but as a commander, small rebel. Cells began to fall one by one, not through brute force, but through strategy, deception, and precision. He didn't fight with size, he fought with surprise. Drones began broadcasting his name across stolen frequencies. The Ghost of Earth, they called him. A warrior with no past, a mind sharper than any blade, and a heart too stubborn to die. Xelyara stood by his side in every mission briefing. They argued, they disagreed, but they trusted, not just as ruler and soldier, but as survivors of a galaxy full of liars. One night, in a war room deep in a captured rebel cruiser, she looked at him and asked, "Why are you really doing this?" He stared at the star map, then answered slowly, "Because I'm tired of humans being seen as weak, because I know what war feels like, and because if I don't do this, no one else will." She nodded quietly. That night, she made a choice to not just protect her throne, but to stand beside the one who had reminded her what real strength looked like. The final preparation begins. The princess stood before her army, the human beside her. Her voice echoed across the valley. "We fight not just for Valgora," she said, "but for what's right." The human stepped forward next. He didn't shout, didn't smile. He simply said one thing: "We end the war tomorrow, or we don't wake up at all." And the army cheered. Not just for her, but for him. Empires don't fall in silence. They scream, they burn. They fight to stay alive. And when they are saved, it's not by kings or crowns. It's by those who bleed, those who dare, and sometimes by the one no one believed in, the skies above. Valgora were on fire. Enemy ships blackened the stars. Rebel fleets circled the royal planet like vultures. Missiles lit the air, laser walls flickered, and sirens sang across every district. But the capital didn't fall, because someone had planned every move, every blast, every step, before the enemy even arrived. That someone was human. The princess stood inside the royal command center, wearing battle armor for the first time, not to look strong, but because she was. Beside her stood the man who had once been her prisoner, now leading her war. He didn't wear a cape or medals, just the same dusty jacket from Earth. But everyone in the room waited for his signal, not hers. He pointed at the map. "They'll breach from the east wall first," he said. "Let them. Make it look easy." A general frowned. "Let them in?" The human nodded. "They'll walk straight into the dead zone I've prepared." The princess smiled slightly. "Let's begin," she said. The final battle had arrived across the capital. Defense towers powered up, energy shields activated, and drone swarms rose from underground bunkers. But none of it moved until the human said one word: "Now." The rebels came in like thunder. Thousands of ships, soldiers, machines, all carrying the same belief that Valgora had already lost. But they were wrong. Trap after trap exploded in their path. AI-controlled defense bots appeared from walls they thought were broken. Fake signals led their fleets into empty space. And waiting in the heart of the Empire was the real army, silent, ready, guided by one voice, the voice of the ghost of Earth. Inside the royal tower, Lord Vexor stood near the throne, blade in hand. "You think I wouldn't reach this far?" he said, his voice cold. The princess faced him, no guards, no protection. Only a steel staff in her hand. "You were never after the throne," she said. "You were after chaos," Vexor grinned. "And you gave it to me." But he didn't see the human behind him, didn't hear the steps, until it was too late. One move, one strike, clean, fast, final. Vexor fell to his knees, shocked. "A human?" he whispered, and then silence. The war was over. Ships fell from the sky. Rebels fled, and the people of Valgora looked up to see their empire still standing. Not because of technology or fear, but because of courage and strategy that came from Earth. In the royal courtyard, the princess stood before her people. And for the first time, she didn't speak first. She stepped back and let him take the stage. He didn't give a long speech. He looked at them and said, "I'm not from here. I'm not royal. But I believe in second chances." Then he turned to Xelyara. "You gave me one," he said. She stepped forward and said, "You gave me everything." The crowd cheered, not for a crown, not for a name, but for a legend. Later, in the quiet after war, the human stood at the top of a tower, watching the stars. Xelyara joined him, holding something small. It was her old floating crystal crown. Now cracked, she handed it to him. "You saved this too," she said. He looked at it and smiled. "I didn't mean to." She leaned against the railing. "Maybe some things are worth saving, even when they're broken." He looked at her. "I'm leaving soon," he said. She nodded slowly. "I know." She turned to him one last time. "You're not even worth carrying my purse," she said, with a soft smile, repeating the line that started it all. He laughed quietly. "Good," he said, "because I was never here to carry it. I was here to carry you." And then he walked away.